do is for Cancer. Now, I wanted to do this a little bit more in sort of a fun sense. So this is actually looking at, if you would have future kids, and this will be for Cancer. So again, if you had curiosities about that and what that looked like, I thought I would give sort of just a general read. So it's not definitely, obviously, going to be for everybody on this one. Just wanted to see how things would play out. All right, so we are starting out with, I'll just go through all of the cards in a bit of generality, and then we'll get to more specifics, and then I'll do some other reads. After following this, I'm going to have to play phone because it's a little on the low side here, guys. But we'll start out with, again, the question that I've asked is for those of you that are wanting children and what that looks like in the future. Okay, so I am starting out here with the King of Swords. So this is around that energy of Libra, Gemini, Aquarius. So it's an air sign energy, masculine energy. We are also followed up with the Three of Cups. So this, of course, be sort of that indicator that there is something of a celebratory nature in the cards. And then we also have these Pentacles. And of course, this is the card of sharing, give and take, and certainly also an indicator that children could be at play because the body does have that capability in this particular read, as well as the Three of Wands. This is something that indicates some could be a little further out, but we do have some repeating cards here as well, which also indicate some of the time frames. So we also have the Eight of Wands. This is also an indicator that Six of Wands. So this is an indicator that yes, something could very well go ahead. There's a lot of masculine energy here as well, with the Emperor, and certainly Aries, Leo, Sagittarius again is coming through. And then we have the Three of Pentacles. So it does indicate that there is something here that could be in around a three. As I say, there's some repeating patterns here as well, collaborative efforts, and certainly does indicate that there is something here that might have finances at play. There's other cards that suggest that as well. They have the Page of Wands, so this also indicates could be even the type of child that would be coming in here. So we'll kind of play that out here. Again, a little bit of fantasy land today. I just felt like doing it. Sorry, and we also had the Fool card, so that would be something of a new card or something that was a little bit on the side of children here as well. And then we also have the Nine of Pentacles. So that is coming out as cards on the bottom of the deck, as well as the Ace of Swords. So we're going to go backtrack here. And then we'll tie everything here together and then just give you, again, a little bit of a synopsis for those of you that have an interest in having children and how that would look, what that would look like, and how it'll all play out. Hi, Allie, and back at you. And so we also, as I said, we are starting out with the King of Swords. So I'll do a little bit of a synopsis, but right now we're sort of tying everything together. So when I mix the combinations together, it does play out a little bit of a different story. So we've got King of Swords here. We also had the Six of Pentacles. We also had the Emperor. So this is an indicator that there is a card of clarity coming through. This is also stability. It's physical capability for having children. It's also speaking to a lot of strong masculine energy. Very strong founded foundation with the Emperor and the King of Swords. And again, a lot of energy there that speaks to good foundation. Hi, Cypress. And so again, this is all in around seeking balance with the Six of Pentacles, balance exchange. Again, that goes to giving and receiving life. So for those of you that want children, that is looking very positive. There is definitely some energy here about being energetically, ready for or wanting children. And it does speak to, with the Three Cups, that energy is also coming in there with the Three of Wands and the Six of Wands and the Three of Pentacles. So it is a yes. I wouldn't say it's happening right away, sort of a time frame, I would say between 1 and 3 years. And it could also be that one comes first and then there's a little bit of a space and then the next one sort of falls into that time frame thereafter. There's a lot of threes here, so that's where I'm getting my time frame, picking that up. So again, there is something here of a celebration, indicate that yes, there will be children, and it's a likely indicator of some kind of a family milestone as well. There is, as I said, the Three of Wands that came through here. So that one is also an indicator of a little bit of a wait. So there's almost like a pause or there's a plan. It's more of a long-term goal. This doesn't look like something that's kind of happenstance and you just get thrown into it. It indicate that there is something here with the Six of Wands that speaks to, again, recognition for this particular event. So there's something here that is obviously a go ahead. There's a lot of cards that speak to, a kind of a proud moment or some kind of public recognition or success in this. Um, and I don't have to worry, Ali, just as a side note, because I'm a very good person and I do good things in the world. So I am not at all worried of, people that judge. I think those that judge, that's not really a loving nature. And that certainly doesn't speak to kindness. And it certainly doesn't speak to any kind of it doesn't impart good things into the world when you judge other people, without justification. I mean, if I judged you for wearing rubber boots because I thought that was something that was, a faux pas, I mean, I think that'd be a little super, the reality is we're here to help one another, this to get through things, to inspire one another, and I hope you can all do the same. So I'm just going to leave it at that. These are actually, this is tarot cards, but not these ones are in particular. Just sort of a new deck that I was sort of experimenting with. But that's the, it's actually, yeah, it's not even sure what the name of it is. I'm sorry about that. So again, those of you that are interested, the Page of Wands and the Fool, it's also about, kind of a youthful beginning here as well. We did have the Three of Pentacles here as well, so it's kind of a collaborative, parenthood sort of situation. So there's a lot of involvement, a lot of engagement. It's a new chapter in your life, and I would say that this is likely after a big shift, career change, or a move, or something like that, because the Fool card did show up here. And again, there's definitely something here that kind of suggests the 1 to 3 year mark. So depending on, obviously a lot of other factors of readiness and so on. Thank you, Cypress. And to each their own, everybody is here to sort of, as I say, assist one another. So it's not about, it's not about, I mean, whatever your background is, obviously influences a lot of the things that we do in our lives. But I think the grand outcome of things is life is hard, and we all need to be there to support each other, not judge one another, because just because somebody doesn't follow the same path that you do, doesn't indicate that they are in the wrong. As a matter of fact, I almost think it causes more problems when we judge other people for not being at the exact same, measure of truth, or measure of, how do I say that? When we have people around us that don't level up to the exact mindset that we have, doing things exactly as we do them, I think that actually is an indicator that we're not allowing for personal growth. And so it's things like that that, as I said, when it comes to judgment, I have a very, I think it's insensitive. I think that you don't allow other people to grow into to be. So I hate to go on about it, but I just hope that, we're there to support people as they go through their own decisions. And again, even with children, I'm going to bring it back to that, even with children, because we're talking about kids, you would never want to push someone, a child, and tell them, well, I can't accept you because you simply don't meet my criteria. You would never do that. You would be in a position where you would try to support them in making their own decisions, but certainly not making the decision for them, take away their free will. So, I mean, there's something there about them having to come to their own realizations in their own time. And all you can do is be there for them when children slip up, or when, and when adults slip up. Nobody has all the right answers. There is no one absolute perfect answer for any. We're all here to support one another, and I don't want anybody to forget that. All right. Oh, okay, Allie. Okay. Well, that's why I say, like, I am absolutely, I would never tell you, not to follow your path. Everybody's called to a path for whatever reason that they are. So, I mean, sometimes being out in nature is your path or your calling. Sometimes some people just cook and they feel connected to those things. And that is that is something that is important to them, that helps to guide them in their, future. So, like I say, whatever your journey is, I support you. I would never tell you that's not the way to go. And I definitely feel, Allie, for sure, I am one of those people that comes from of heart. I'm very heart based, and I definitely try to reach out and connect with people, even when I do see people that are in harm's way, children as well, that have been, touched by drugs and different things in the streets, homeless, and all of those things. I am that person that will go up and give somebody a hamburger, or, give them advice on, read a book called Osho, or, you know what I mean? Like, I don't tell people anything. It's really their journey. I definitely try to instill some hope. So yeah, I carry on, like, for sure. Whatever helps you to connect with people is important. I actually have I'm just reading Cypress's comment. I actually have sort of my own theory on things, and it may sound a little wacky to many. So I do believe, I do believe that there is a God creator. I don't know that there's, I don't see it in quite probably the way in a biblical sense, but I will say I feel like there is obviously something that has created our level of consciousness. I do feel like we're all connected on some level, in a certain level of one. I don't want to get too far into my belief systems because I'm not trying to impinge on yours. But I would certainly say that I feel like we are all here for one another. Life is challenging, life is hard, and sometimes when people are really in a hostile place, you don't want to get too close because they'll make you the target. But I certainly feel that it's okay to help hand up versus help somebody level up a little bit, is what I would say. And certainly you can't necessarily bring somebody from a very low point to an immediate high point, because there's all the steps in between. So they're not going to see themselves in that high point. They would need to be incrementally up to a level where they finally would believe in themselves again. So yeah, life is complicated. I'm going off on a tangent. It's what I do. Okay. Yeah, I don't really believe, Cypress, that tarot cards are from the devil. As a matter of fact, I believe it's inspiration. I feel like it's a tool. I think we're all very psychic, and we're all very connected, intuitively, especially. That's why we reach out to one another. That's why you get a feeling when somebody's going to call you. That's why you get a feeling when you're, don't take that road, don't take that highway, there might be an accident or whatever. I don't believe that, to say, oh, the spoon is causing, you to have double thoughts. The fork has, like I hate to say, I don't believe this is pictures. As a matter of fact, if you go back in history, tarot cards were actually used as a means of exchange, and they were also just games that were played with cards. So, we have attached meanings to things as people. And so, again, it's more along the lines of, if you see something negative, and that's because of your own internal programming. It's less about, everyone else out there. Because, like I say, I mean, everything can be very innocuous and have uh, no real meaning. Like, I mean, if a symbol of, the yin yang has a meaning to a certain culture, but yet it's a devilish thing for other cultures to see that, who are judge that, right? I mean, it's a symbol, and a symbol is something that represents something for you to move toward, to be positive. It's not to judge people and to minimize them and to make them feel less than. We're here to make people feel like they're good enough and that there is a reason for us to continue on this path. So, like I said, it's not about looking at someone saying, well, you've got dark hair. I'm sorry, you're very evil. You've got pointed fingernails, so that means that you've got a problem. Like, you have to be realistic. No, bad, good, there's good and bad. And it's not, that's not, I don't enjoy Uno. I game of aggravation. I actually like card games. So does that mean that I'm a bad person? Of course, we all have free will. And the fact that I like witchy things doesn't necessarily mean I'm out there, doing all kinds of whatever is associated. It's not who I am, but I certainly do like some of the things because to me, they relate around antiquity. They relate around the 1800s and the 1600s and Victorian times. And to be quite frank, those periods, they were very restrictive and sexual practices. That was very prudish. There was more prudish behavior. So if we were to actually really break this down, those are things that you're attaching to it that are of your own thinking. So that's about your, not mine. So again, I mean, I'm attracted to certain things because I find them creative or mystical, or something that has more of an intrigue to me. I'm not the kind of person that necessarily likes big bright yellow shirts. I tend to like a certain, subdued kind of outfit. So does that mean something too? Like we could attach kind of different meanings to everything. But in reality, it really boils down to, are you a good person? It doesn't matter whether or not you're wearing a Joker's hat. A person wearing a Joker's hat doesn't mean you're happy. A person that's wearing a smile doesn't mean they're happy. A person that's wearing, red doesn't mean that they're evil. We're getting a little bit too ridiculous on some of the attachments to things. Like I said, it's how you choose to express yourself, and there's something in it that you may bear some interest in because it represents something more sacred to you. If you are and I'll tell you this much for sure, generally, if somebody's a psychopathic killer, they're not going to be out there advertising themselves. And they certainly would not be, running around with some kind of, you know, um, deep philosophy generally. I mean, there's those kinds of underpinnings that are more along those are people that stay very, very under the wire. So that's why I say, like, the fact that somebody likes, a long skirt versus a short skirt, I mean, this is just getting too, it's nitpicky. So it's just to say somebody likes to drive, a white car versus a black car. Are they then as well, leaning towards devilish behaviors? Like, we're getting too off topic, is what I'm going to say there. So, and again, to say that pagan means one thing, it may mean something to you, but that's not my idea of what that means. So, I mean, there are things in history where there were plenty of women, if you really want to go right back there, a lot of women were actually used because of their husband, and they may have actually been, a lot of times they had property, and men in fact actually ended up taking that property from them by simply saying, oh, you're a witch. And whether they were or not, they were just able to access the property, and then they were then rich. You see how this works? It's all about politics. It's all about manipulation. Right? So things are not what you think you're seeing. So fall into things that, with an overly simplistic meaning to life. Question things and don't judge. Try to be supportive, because, like I said, life is hard enough. And if somebody's had a hard life and they gravitate toward certain things, you wouldn't want to judge them on it, as the point is to grow and evolve, and that's the important thing. Anyway, okay, I have now gone off way off. Well, okay, I'm not saying you're kind of in that zone about, having a lot of money and all of that, Cypress and Alley. But I definitely feel, so long as it's not about judging people. It's not about saying you're good, you're bad. Everything is not black and white like that. But I definitely feel that you need to actually, find an outlet that helps you to express, and certainly to be positive, be positive and encouraging about your own, your worth and value, and those of others, because then we are more, that's the world we're going to create. If we're supportive to others in our community, then that definitely allows us to, create that we want to see in life. So anyway, I'm way off topic. Okay. So anyway, we're going back into the Fool. So the Fool is about starting off with some kind of new beginning, or some kind of, yeah, again, cards are just cards. Sorry, Cypress. I just wanted to say cards are just cards. As a matter of fact, really, it's like it tells a story, and it's not about the cards. You actually intuitively sort of pick up your own idea of things, and start to realize that, all of life is a repeating pattern for everyone. We're all going to go through heartbreak. We're all going to go through, some levels of money difficulty. We're all going to lose people in our lives. Those are repeating patterns or cycles. And so that's what the tarot cards are as well, is they're really just repeating cycles. So what you're doing is you're seeing sort of the beginning of a life, of a cycle. And as a person learns something, they integrate the lesson, and then it moves on to the next lesson. So the idea of witchcraft, I mean, again, some people, go into it with, how do I say, with more of a level of commitment, I suppose. But for me, there are a lot of things that I like that relate around nature. And to me, that is the element that I'm drawn to. Sorry, just reading comments here, guys. I don't actually. Well, okay, if truth be known, I actually don't believe God and a devil in the way that you do. I definitely don't believe in a devil. And I definitely, as far as a God, a creator, I mean, if we were to break it right down, if we were to look into the Egyptian cultures, if we were to look into Christianity, I mean, all of the different realms of religion are all different. All of them are different. All of them are different. And because that means they're all different, everybody is going to go to war over their own belief system. And that is where the problems lay, because there is no camaraderie, no connection, there is no saving anybody, because they'll do whatever it takes to say, no, I'm right. That is where the problem is when there's religious fanatics. You are either a good person or you are not. You're going to go through stages where you may not be a good person, but you may end up on the other side of things, becoming, somebody who is very giving. So they say you have to be very careful, with what you judge and how you judge people. There is no evidence or proof of anything. Everything is really concepts that we just have to, in a greater scale, learn from. We choose symbols that help us to identify who we are and to make it comfortable. Like there's all kinds of things out there and all the minutia that that really starts to play into our belief system. Well, I mean, I won't say that I believe in a devil, but I do believe there are people that have some very negative biases and certainly have some very narrow-mindedness, or certainly there's, kind of evil, whatever you want to say evil is, kind of patterns where, they don't do good in the world. They don't contribute to the world in a way that helps things to build. But again, we need that polarity. You have to know what bad, or whatever bad is, right? You have to know what bad is and able to know what good is. So if you just to say, oh, I know good, well, you only know good because you have been identified with bad on some level. So you know what it feels like to feel pain. So as I say, there's just so many dualities out there. Like life is to be explored. It's an exciting adventure. No, I don't, yeah. I don't believe anybody's tricking me on that basis. I mean, if you really want the truth, life tricks you in so many other ways. I mean, the things that we believe to be real, let's just go into sort of a random thought, things around even believing in certain systems. We believe that the government and those kinds of things are doing the right things for us, and that everybody is good, and everything is, all the and stuff are distributed, between all of the various parts of the system in a cohesive way, and it's not. You're going to find out as you get older that these there's a lot of systems that are corrupt, because people are humans, and because they're humans, they are fallible. They will make good choices, they will make bad choices, and you may be on the receiving end of that bad choice. And that's not about being devilish or otherwise. I mean, you can be very good in one area of your life, with family, and then be very bad in area of your life at school or whatever. So, it's really about trying to find the balance, contributing to, life in some way that's going to help nourish. I don't know that I do witchcraft in the way you think I do, but I definitely feel like I like the little costumes, and I like the idea of nature, and I like a lot of, silver different elements that are very Victorian, that are kind of correlated to that. So again, you're entitled to your own opinion there, guys. I mean, I don't want to make it a big debate, because I'm not trying to tell you otherwise, not to, to believe or not to believe. The choice is entirely yours. I just want you to be aware not to be too overly committed to judging people. Because again, then it starts to be, let's start a war and let's cut off heads because you don't believe what I believe. And that's wrong. That's wrong right there. And again, it doesn't matter if you're saying it because you're feeling religious while you said it. The point is, behavior does not allow us to be human and to learn through those lessons. That to me is, that's, when when you're trying to make everyone a white shirt and white shoes, despite everything else around them, that is controlling. So you have to be very careful with the words that you choose and with the way that you think about people. You know, don't exclude people by virtue of, race or otherwise. Well, I don't believe I don't even believe in the devil, so I really, there's nothing to save there. If somebody, felt that they needed to, you know, to cause problems, I would say that kind of person that I take the hit, but I will do everything in my power to correct that negative thing. So, hi, Bob. I do remember you with your dog. Uh, yeah, and I've gone so far off topic here with this, but anyway, I get a little upset with what, because I think I'm trying to get everybody sort of on board, not to judge each other and say, well, you're not good enough but you are, and you're enough but you are, you wear the right shoes, you wear the right clothes, but you're not good enough but you are. Like, I'm not all about that. We're here to grow. That's it. We're going out the same way. We're all going to pass along, so while you're here, do good in the world and make a difference. Hi, Bob. I'm glad you stopped and said hello. So yeah, I was doing cancer, and if they would have there would be kids and all of that, and I was seeing yes, and I was seeing three, something about 3 years possibly, and there might even be three kids here, but there's also something here that's coming through about. I was talking about the Six of Pentacles, Six of Wands, and those are cards that speak to balance and harmony, and potentially kind of referencing children. So it could be also a sense of fairness in parenting where there's two main children and possibly a third down the line. There may be, as I said, one early on, and then there is something that sort of speaks to a bit of a weight or life shift. So maybe one and then two more later, something like that. But either way, I still feel like three is the most probable. There is something here again with that Page of Wands energy that kind of speaks to a curious. It's a curious energy. So it may be that one child is going to inspire the family, be very passionate, have a certain talent. But I see the connection between the firstborn, especially having strong opinions, very exploratory, pushing boundaries, very creative, all of that. This is also where the Three of Cups energy comes in too. So I feel there'll be a lot of joy, a lot of harmony, emotional sensitivity in those relationships. Lots of empathistic, spiritually aware kind of energy here as well. There's also something about being the emotional peacekeeper of the family, and because ruling with the heart, that kind of thing. So again, I would say that there's still Three of Pentacles, Emperor energy. Where were we here? Oh, okay, Three of Pentacles, and of course we did have the Emperor energy that was there earlier. So I still feel like this is sort of in that where this child might be a little bit later, but I feel like it's once someone is more established here. And so again, there's something here about very practical, wise beyond the years. This is the one that's born later. Again, there's a lot more structure involved with this child's life, and I would say that there's a lot of legacy. You know, coming through. So I feel like with that King of Swords to the Emperor energy, it's someone who leads through wisdom and structure and protection, transforming those emotional strengths, struggles, into a strength. So there's definitely something here, guys, that does feel like family would be a source of pride. Kids very deeply connected to you, building something real. And certainly it's not going to be, it's about building something lasting, right? There's that creativity and a new family story, but it's very strong energies, lots of very grounded energy here as well. And I would say that, like I said, they overall it's somewhere in the 1 to 3 sort of range. I think I went on with this too long, so, but I'll just finish up with the last cards here, and then I'll plug in my phone and move along. But we do have the Nine of Pentacles here as well. So there is also something here that speaks to a lot of independence, and finances seem to be very, very at the priority here. I feel like there's something here. that kind of is indicating that there's going to be slow, secure progress. But again, there's still something here that's very oriented around finances. So I'm going to say there is some kind of personal awakening where, I would say it's like a mental pattern, it breaks. And then it's like almost like a spiritual upload or some sorts where you get clearer on a direction, and you might even start talking different, because you're more direct. There's a lot more conviction, you know. Yeah, a lot of protective energy here, I would say. Very grounded energy, and I do feel there'll be a strong closeness. Um, and it almost feels like there is the spirit of one of these children is already with you in some way, guiding you in some respect. So if that makes any sense, it feels like there's something here that is soul contract level kind of energy. Thank you, Cypress. Well, like I said, my heart is always in the right place for people. I definitely always the best for humanity. I do see a lot of things now that I didn't see much, before as well. And I think given um, my time on Earth, I feel like there's been a lot of learning, and I hope that, you guys go on that journey too, where it's not about love and hate. It's about how you conduct yourself, and despite other people's bad behavior, how can you rise above it? Not to judge them, but to help them to, find more truth or sensitivity in their world. Because I find that, I shouldn't say it that way. There's a lot of people that are extremely sensitive in the world. I too would be one of those. But I would say that in seeing other people's pain, you wouldn't want to necessarily get too close that you absorb it, because you'll be the target of it. But you can certainly do small things that, leaving small tokens of help to let people know that they're cared. That goes a long way. So that's where I'm going to leave it, guys. I just want you to know, keep moving forward, and definitely guide yourselves in a way that, how you would want to be treated is how you should treat others. Keep moving forward.